how Goodyear ought to operate. And my question is, who the hell are you?
Mr. Stirling, I made it quite clear in this document, Mr. Stirling, that I was an active investor. And I'm happy to define what I consider to be the role of an active investor.
Well, I hope you'll make your response brief.
I will do it by this answer, and I hope it'll be clear to you. An active investor is not a manager. He is not a particularist. He's not a man who thinks that he can double-guess management. He's not a person who thinks that he can do the job of management better than the manager that he can hire.
But that's exactly what you're doing.
I'll tell you what. No, sir, it is not. What I'm saying is an active manager has to ensure that the right management has to be in place, number one. That the right management has to be properly motivated, number two. That the right manager, properly motivated, then runs the company according to a reasonable strategy and not trying to chase after all sorts of industries it knows nothing about. That is a job of an active manager, of an active investor. If he does not consider the management right, he fires it and replaces it.
Now, I presume that the purpose of your acquisition of this company was to end up with a profit for yourself. Isn't that really your interest?
I can think of no other reason for doing business. And I strongly recommend that the United States, which was built on that idea, remain on that idea.
But
it's very worthwhile. It's built
do you recognize...
Congressman.
Let me ask you one other thing. Mr. Boesky owns 300,000 shares of Goodyear, which he acquired recently. Has he been in communication with you on this transaction?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Goldsmith's power was now waning. Under political pressure, he withdrew his bid for Goodyear. But the revelations of corruption started by Boesky kept growing. They now spread to Britain.
At Westminster, MPs have been debating insider trading, that is, using confidential information to make money on the stock market. The debate followed yesterday's announcement of an inquiry into the Guinness Company. It's thought one area of investigation will be the activities of the American financier Ivan Boesky. He's already been fined $100 million for insider dealing in American shares. Today, the Labour MP Robin Cook linked Mr. Boesky's activities with the recent takeover by Guinness of the Distillers Group.
He was particularly active in the Guinness bid for distillers. He built up a very large holding in distillers, which is rumoured to have reached the figure of $100 million. A figure which he assembled well in advance of the announcement of the bid.
As in America, the Guinness scandal exposed a network of illegal share dealing. But unlike America, only 4 men were convicted. Evidence of a much wider system of corruption was quietly buried. One of those charged in the Guinness affair was the banker Lord Spence.
Well, I was part of that. I mean, I felt rather as though one had put one's head above the parapet and had it shot off. The failure by people to stand up and be counted was stunning. The city retreated into a shell and started to go into denial mode and say, we never did this, we never have anything to do with any of these practices. It was astonishing because they all had been.
Everyone had been doing this?
Everyone. Absolutely everyone.
Shit! They haven't done anything for today. What? 5518. Myself. What was the spot? It was 7. That 80 to hit.
Then finally, Michael Milken was charged by the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, with 94 counts of fraud, racketeering and insider dealing. He was sentenced to 3.5 years in prison.
Who did it? I think it was corporate America. I think it was some of our competitors who went to the SEC, which we know is a fact. And I think it was the factor of jealousy and envy. We just became too powerful in their minds. And those were the forces that finally got to us. That's what it was. It was the establishment of the real money in America versus the new money. That's what really became the force that went after us. And we were taking business away from everyone. You know, when we did all this business, someone lost business.
And you were changing corporate America.
And we were changing corporate America. All the companies who said they wouldn't touch a junk bond all the great names in Wall Street are all in that business today. It was like they picked up our business after we went down.
You bitter about it?
No. The only thing I'm bitter about is we didn't fight. To me, there's a thing like death with dishonor.
The Raiders' day was over. But the revolution they had started was unstoppable. And the most unexpected group now took over the reins of power, the pension funds. The Raiders had shown the pension funds how to squeeze vast amounts of money out of the corporations. It was what the law told the pension funds was their duty. So they now copied the Raiders, but on a much greater scale.
The pension funds finally became raiders themselves, or at least the functional equivalent of raiders. They felt, well, wait a minute. If we were to exercise the kind of power raiders did, we wouldn't actually have to take over the company. We could force them to do all these kinds of things that would make the share price appreciate in much the same way, and we could take those profits instead of letting people like Sir James Goldsmith and his ilk take them.
And is that what they did?
That's exactly what they did. It's what they've been doing since the late 1980s. The great irony of all this is that the pension funds were creatures of workers, of their power to force management finally to take account and take responsibility for them in their retirement. But now, after these tremendous upheavals in the market that began with the takeover boom, we find pension funds in the vanguard of people oppressing the very workers that they were born to serve, eliminating millions of jobs, holding down their wages, all in the name of higher profits so that they may have a more comfortable retirement.
It got to the point where we could not do a deal. It was impossible. And I remember walking in Central Park with Jimmy, and he said to me, "My dear boy, you know we'll never do another deal in America." I said, "I know that." He said, "People have gone mad. They don't care about the debt. They don't have people to run the companies. The bankers have gone mad. The lawyers have gone mad. We will never get a company because we will not pay so much that will fail our investors." So he said, "It's over." And he said, "This is the end in America. The 80s are going to come to a close."
In 1987, Goldsmith sold everything. He retreated to the remote jungles of Mexico. He used his fortune to begin building a vast private estate. It would be a world completely under his control. Goldsmith had been pushed aside by the large financial institutions he had helped to bring to power. They now ran American business, and his time was over. But Goldsmith was determined that one day he would return and reassert control.
Nellie the elephant packed her trunk and trundled back to the jungle. Off she went with a trumpety trump, 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 trump. The head of the herd was calling far, far away. They met one night in the silver light on the road to Mandalay. So Nellie the elephant packed her trunk and said goodbye to the circus. Off she went with a trumpety trump, trump, trump.